Hi everyone and welcome back to another video in the Scratch Tower Defense game tutorial. I'm Masi.
And I'm Zach.
And we are reaching the end of our video game. There's just 2 or 3 major things that we need to take care of. And in today's video, we'll be working on one of them, the collision detection. So we're going to fix the issue. Well, it's not really an issue. It's just something we didn't add in yet, where we can't shoot the bad guys. So even though our guard can fire his arrows and the arrows fly to the end, when it touches a bad guy, nothing happens to them.
Just goes right through them.
Right through them. So we need to add in that feature. Then after that, what's left to do?
Well, then we have the fort to take care of, where we're going to make it so that when they reach the fort, you are going to lose eventually.
Okay, so that's the challenge part of our game.
Right.
All right, the stakes. And then I think finally we'll add in sound effects. So I think let's not waste any more time and jump straight into it. So the first thing we want to do is I'm going to make some space on my stage, and we're going to grab in when I start as a clone, because we remember that we want the collision detection to apply to the clones, not the parent sprite, because the parent sprite is not a player in the game. He just sits in one place and hides away.
Right, it works as like a
spawn point. Yeah, like a mob spawner. It's exactly what what a mob spawner is. Okay, and then inside here we want a forever. Okay, and with the forever and if then.
Of course.
Right, now inside the if then, we want to head over to sensing, and we want to grab a touching certain sprite, and we're going to change this to, of course, the arrow.
Right, because that's what's going to be hitting the orcs.
Correct. Okay, now just to explain what we're trying to get here. Number one, when we hit an orc, we want him to disappear, of course.
Right, but
the clone must get deleted. But we also want a animation to show that you've hit the orc.
Right, and that's where the little bit complicated part comes in.
Mm-hmm. Finally, we also want the arrow to disappear. So it shouldn't still go right through the orc and the orc just dies.
Right, so you shouldn't be able to kill more than one orc at the same time, because it'll go right through him and hit the guy in the back.
Collateral. So we don't want that. We just, once it hits an orc, it must get stuck in him and disappear. So to test our code out so far, let's just go ahead and add in a delete this clone piece. So we get that from the control tab, and there it is, delete this clone, and we're going to put that in here. And that should actually work. Let's test that out. I think I should reduce the spawn time. Oh, no, never mind. Okay.
So there we go.
Right.
The first part is already done. He disappears.
Again. All right. But of course, nothing happens. He's it's not very satisfying.
Right. The rest of the problems that we identified still need to be implemented.
Right. So which one should we touch on next? I say let's do the animation. That's my favorite.
I think that's the obvious next step.
Okay. Now, before we do the animation, there is a costume that we are going to need. And if you remember, it was a costume where, there we go, it's called enemy hit, where the orc had an arrow through him. So it looks like the arrow shot him and got stuck in him and then disappeared.
Right, so when the actual arrow disappears, it's going to look like
it just got stuck in him.
It got stuck in him, right? Because it's a separate sprite, but it looks the same. It's a little trick.
Right. So under the looks tab, let's find a switch to costume and put this over the delete this clone. Well, everything has to go over the delete this clone, as you'll see.
It's the end of the script. Nothing else can happen.
And we're going to change this to enemy hit. Okay, so let's have a look. It's going to be very fast. So we're going to just barely catch a glimpse of it. Oh, it's way too fast. Can't even see it at all.
Yeah, it still just disappears.
So what if you put a weight? Now let's see. Okay, so he did switch. As you can see, it just flickered and then disappeared. But the issue that we have is that, like we said, he doesn't stop moving. That was another issue that we're going to face. And the costumes won't stop changing when he gets hit.
Exactly.
Now let's go ahead and fix that up before we come in and finish off the animation. Now to do this, we're going to make a few small modifications to our existing code. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be changing these forevers, these two, and we're going to replace them with repeat until. All right.
I see where this is going, but I'm gonna let you explain it.
Okay. So first things first, let's go ahead and actually make the changes. So we're going to take everything inside the forever, grab the first puzzle piece and everything else should follow, and just place that inside the repeat until. And then we can get rid of the repeat until, the forever, and the repeat until will take its place. And let's do the same thing for this one.
Right, so make sure you grab in the extreme top one, otherwise you're going to break your code into half.
Like if I do this, see the if got left behind.
Right, so you got to grab the whole thing.
And then what we can do is we can actually just take out this piece, this forever piece that we just created for the collision, and just place that underneath the switch costume block of code, and it'll fit in there nicely. All right. Now the issue that we have is that we're repeating until what?
Right, so we need something to go into that.
Okay, and that'll come from sensing, touching the arrow.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. So you can guess how this is going to work. This code inside, let's take a look at this one here. When I start as a clone, go to a position, and then this is the part of the code that controls the enemy movement. So instead of telling the code when to stop, we're telling it when to play until. I don't know if that makes sense. So he'll keep moving until he touches the arrow, and then this code just stops automatically. And the same goes for the costume.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right. So let's go ahead and test that out now. There we go. Oh wait, we can't see it because he disappears so fast. So we just need to get a weight, and we'll put this underneath the switch costume before we delete the clone. There we go.
All right, that looks like it works.
All right. Okay, so just to go through it one more time, instead of telling the code when to stop, we're just telling the code when to play until. So in the case of the movement, we're saying keep moving until you hit an arrow, and then Scratch will automatically know to stop. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is finally just finish off with the animations. So I'm going to get rid of my weight piece, and we'll put the delete clone back. And now we want a regular repeat piece. So it says repeat 10. Okay, and we're going to place this underneath the switch costume. Okay, and it just wants to put the clone in the delete clone part. Just take that out and place that underneath the repeat. Now inside here, we are gonna put in a small animation just to show and hide the enemy. So if you remember back in the olden days games, well, nowadays games, the enemy flashes before he disappears.
As he disappears, sort of like a transition into disappearing.
Correct. So we're just gonna repeat this about 3 times, this animation, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna say show then hide, then show, then hide, then show, then hide, and then disappear.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay.
I think.
So let's take a look at it in practice. We're gonna head over to looks. We want a hide piece all the way down here, and we want a show piece, and just put that underneath the hide. Then under control, grab a wait piece and place that in
it'll
between.
just be instant end.
And here we can just change the time. So let's make this 0.1. Okay. And here I'm just gonna go ahead and change the pick random to 1 to 5 for the spawn time, because just for testing, makes them pop in a little bit faster. Okay. It actually didn't make them faster. How do you like that?
That looks much better already.
Ooh. That looks decent, right? There's just one thing that's missing.
Right,
the arrow goes straight through. So if you can actually line up 2 orcs, you'll see that you'll kill both of them. So the collision works. The clone is disappearing. We got a nice little animation. Of course, we got a costume that, once again, thanks to Zach for giving us these costumes. It really makes it look like we are shooting these guys. And I'm kind of happy with the way it turned out.
I can see you having a lot of fun. I think we need to move on.
Oh yeah, we do. It is actually strangely addictive.
It is addictive. I can see just by watching it, it's satisfying.
It is very satisfying. And I think it gets even better once we add in the sound effects. So finally for this video, let's go ahead and add in the part where the arrow disappears.
I think this will be relatively easy compared to...
It's actually just 2 pieces of code. We just need to add in a broadcast piece. Now broadcast, I think it comes from control. Does it, or does it come from events? Oh, there we go. So we grab a broadcast and we're going to place this right above the collision detection piece of code, underneath the if then. So above everything else.
So directly after the arrow touches him, it's going to broadcast a message. And what does that mean?
A broadcast is basically sending a message from one sprite to another sprite when something happens.
Okay, so it's sort of shouting to the other sprite, hey, this happened to me, and
then that sprite will say, oh, okay, cool, I can react to
there we go.
something.
That makes sense.
So what we're gonna do is we'll click down on this message drop down, click on new message, and we'll just call this hit.
Right, so you turn the arrow, I got hit.
Yeah. And inside the arrow part now, the arrow sprite, we need to add in a new piece when I receive hit.
Okay, so when you get the message.
When I get the message, what to do? Well, just hide, that's all. Don't need to do anything else.
That's it.
That's it. So, as soon as the arrow gets the message that he hit an orc, it'll just hide. So, it'll look like it stopped in the orc.
Let's go ahead and test this out. I'm very eager to see.
We're going to get the full view of this. There we go.
And that really looks convincing, doesn't it?
It does.
You'll never guess that the arrow is still there, just hidden.
It's just hidden.
It's an optical illusion.
Okay, so that's it for this lesson, I think. Unless you want to add anything else.
I think that's it.
That's it. And in the next one, we will go ahead and add in the sound effects, as well as the fort health. That's gonna nicely wrap up our game. Right. So I think that's it. That's it. Thank you so much again for watching, and we'll catch you in the next and final video.